Let's get into one of the tougher objections. A lot of people will say, well, you have the days of creation, but the sun isn't created until the fourth day.
Sure.
So doesn't that mean that the days absolutely can't be literal, full stop, argument over?
I would say not at all, because if you think about it, that challenge is really irrelevant to this discussion about the length of the creation days.
Okay.
Let me explain what I mean by that. Let's even concede, for the sake of the argument, hypothetically, if we were to make those creation days long eras, millions of years long, billions of years long even, does that somehow alleviate this difficulty? I don't think so, because the difficulty is, and the challenge sort of seems to accept this, that in the creation account narrative, you've got evening and morning occurring before the sun, moon, and stars are made. On the very first day, you have God making the light and calling it day and separating it from the night, right? So this is clearly the establishment of the light-dark cycle on Earth. And of course, today we know this is caused by, the light coming from the sun and the Earth rotates, right? But if we make the days long periods of time, that doesn't change the sequence of events. You still have on day one, the light-dark cycle is already established. Evening and morning are present from day one, but it's not until day 4 that God makes the stars, right? And the sun. And so if the chronological sequence is accurate, then how does making the days long alleviate the difficulty? You still have the sun created after the light-dark cycle.
Okay.
So what day-age creationists end up doing is appealing to other theories to, get around this difficulty. And what they often say is that God didn't actually create the sun on the 4th day, that he just made, or for that matter, the moon or the stars, he just made these things appear for the first time. Maybe the, thick cloud cover parted, and so observers on Earth could see these lights in the heavens for the first time. Now, I regard that solution as desperate. I don't think that fits the language of day 4 of creation week at all. The word appear, for example, is a word in Hebrew that's used in Genesis 1 on day 3 when God makes the dry land appear for the first time. Because the earth was already present, but it was covered by water before day 3. And then the land, rises up relative to the sea waters going down and so forth. So the dry land emerges or appears for the first time. And that language is used. But on day 4, the sun, moon, and stars are not said to appear. God could have said that had he wanted to. But no, instead he says that he uses the same sort of formulaic expressions used for other days of creation week when he is creating things. He says, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens and so forth. He says he made these objects. He made the greater light and the lesser light and the stars also. The verb there is also implied that he made those stars also. Now, sometimes people, try to appeal to the fact that it says he made the stars to serve certain functions, and they say, oh, see, he's not actually making them, he's just making them to have the functions.
Okay.
Right? Like to give light on the earth, to function as signs for seasons and days and years, a calendar, basically, a night light. But not every phrase in used on day 4 of the heavenly bodies there does include a function associated with the making of these things. Like when it just says, and the stars also, implying he made the stars also, it's just saying he made them. It doesn't say he made them to do something. And so again, I think these are just desperate ways to try to get around the clear teaching of Genesis that God did in fact make the heavenly bodies on day 4.
Before we continue, quick heads up, stick around until the end of the interview because we'll be offering an exclusive free stream of our award-winning documentary, Evolution's Achilles Heels. You won't want to miss it. Now back to the discussion.
And it's pretty bizarre to say otherwise, since the whole point is that God is doing different distinct creative acts on each day leading up to day 7. That's the day where he refrains from creating.
Yeah.
If you say God didn't actually make the sun, moon, and stars on the 4th day, then what did he do? He didn't make anything at all on that day, right? And so I regard that solution as just a hopeless attempt to get around this problem. But one other point on this is here again, even if for the sake of the argument, I were to concede the point and say, well, maybe the sun, moon, stars could have appeared only on day 4. Well, do you see how actually that solves the problem for the 24-hour day believer?
Okay.
Because if that's true, that the sun actually was here from the first day, then there wouldn't be a problem with the sun coming after the evening and morning. You can't have literal days then if the sun is there from the beginning. So that's not my own view. I think that's an incorrect understanding.
It feels like we're paddling around in circles with this idea.
Yeah.
And it just seems like it requires such a convoluted and weird reading that it feels like you'd be better off just jettisoning any kind of literal interpretation of Genesis whatsoever and just view it as pure allegory or pure framework or something.
Certainly you have to deny that it's giving us a chronological sequence of events. That's really the way to get around this difficulty rather than just making the days long. That's irrelevant to this challenge. Now, we could also talk about what is my solution then.
Sure.
From the point of view of saying the language of Genesis clearly does demand that these are literal days. So then how do we explain how you can have the light dark cycle, evening and morning, literal days without the sun? But here too, let me drill down a bit further on what exactly is the problem supposed to be.
Okay.
Is the problem supposed to be that the word day itself becomes nonsensical if the sun isn't doing its ordinary thing for the first 3 days? If the sun isn't there at all, is it impossible that we can use the word day and apply it to those time periods? I don't think so, because technically the word day just refers to a time unit, right? It's a period of time. And to show that you can have that same length of time without the sun doing its ordinary thing, think of the book of Joshua, where this miracle occurs, right? Where Joshua commands the sun to stand still.
Yeah.
The moon stops as well in the sky. And there's an interesting expression that's used in that account where it says that the sun didn't hasten to go down for about a whole day. Notice, even though the sun is frozen in the sky, it's not going through the typical cycle. Joshua can still talk about that period of time, about a whole day. And we know what he means, even though the sun isn't doing its typical thing.
Right.
That shows that the term still is meaningful, even if the sun isn't doing what it normally does. Another good parallel for this might be if we were to talk about day 3 of creation week, when God made the dry land and the plants. And say I were to talk about, some of the trees that God made on day 3 were like 30 feet tall or more. Now, if somebody were to object to that and say, hold on, your unit of a foot, well, that originally comes from the standard of the length of a human's foot, but humans weren't made on day 3. They weren't made until day 6 of creation week.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's impossible to describe the trees as being 30 feet tall. That's just meaningless. No, of course not. We understand what we mean by feet because we live in a time after feet have been created. And so we can apply that unit of measurement to a time before the standard became present. And in the same way, the book of Genesis was written after the creation narrative, when humans already existed, after the sun was already, governing the day, time, and so forth. And so the original writer and readers of Genesis would have understood the meaning of the term.
It sounds like, for this objection at least, the problem isn't so much what the word day actually means. It sounds like there's something else going on here.
Yeah.
So what is that?
I think the only real difficulty then for the person who believes in 6 24-hour days is to try to imagine, what did God actually do then to create the day-night cycle prior to the sun being present? Given that the fact now we understand that the day-night cycle on Earth is caused by the Earth's rotation relative to the light coming from the sun from a certain direction, that seems to indicate that God would have had to make a temporary light source on day 1 as kind of a placeholder before he made the sun, right? To have the day and night occurring on the earth, you've got to have light coming from one direction and the earth rotating. Or if he didn't do it that way, maybe he did it by some other supernatural means. And I'll grant that that seems a little odd. Like, why would God temporarily make one light source and then later create the sun to serve as the light giver? But it's the text of Genesis that drives me to that conclusion. So I don't see that as a difficulty with understanding the meaning of the term day. Rather, it's just a matter of saying God did things in a way that I might not expect.
Yeah.
But there are supernatural things occurring during creation week. And so
definitionally,
we can't tell God like the way he must create. He is certainly all powerful and capable of creating light on the earth without having the sun present and then later putting the sun there to serve as the permanent light giver.
Speaking of hope, one of the Bible verses that comes to mind is 1 Peter 3:15, and that's always be ready to give an answer for the hope that lies within you. It's the hope is not idle. It's a hope that's based on faith, but it is based on evidence. And we have a special offer for our viewers about where they can go to get that hope and evidence. So tell us about that.
Yeah, we've produced an award-winning documentary that we'll be making available for a limited time for free streaming. It's called Evolution's Achilles Heels, and this is one of my favorite documentaries that we've produced. It features Bible-believing scientists, 15 of them, with expertise in a variety of fields: biology, geology, cosmology, that's the study of the heavens, and so on. And what they do is they critique this old age evolution system, the theory, and say that real science actually undermines. It shows that there are fatal weaknesses in evolutionary theory. And so there's great accompanying animated illustrations and so forth. It's a powerful tool that will teach people about the truth and how the evidence supports Genesis.
And we are making that free to stream for a limited time. Link in the description below. Keaton, thank you so much. It was awesome.
Thank you.